We're taking a look at Albuquerque, New Mexico, the home of the New Mexico Bowl between SMU and BYU, squaring off for the first time since 1997 in prime time. Hello and welcome inside the American Studios. Here to break it all down with me are ESPN college football analyst Rini Angolia, Taylor McCarg. I'm Morgan Uber. For SMU, they're looking for their first bowl win here, guys, in a decade. They've had 4 different head coaches during that span. Taylor, when you look at this matchup, what do you expect to see here under the first-year head coach, Rhett Lashley, to close out the season?
I think this bowl game means a lot to SMU. They went through a rough stretch in the middle of the year, the first part of the year. They played much better in the back half of the season, and I think getting to an 8th win in Rhett Lashley's first year, I think it's really important to this SMU team.
I agree. It's a big deal, and really carry that momentum into next season. Rhett's done a tremendous job, as Taylor said. Had some tough games in there, but they weathered that storm, and it's a big deal that Tanner Mordecai is going to be in the game as well.
Yeah, rarely do we see quarterbacks of that caliber
Yes.
who have the potential to play at the next level, still wants to come back and show some stock here. And in this matchup, they'll face BYU, who started the season winning 4 of their first 5 games. However, October is a month that the Cougars would like to forget, losing 4 in a row. They then, though, went on to finish on a high note, winning 3 straight to close out the regular season, including a 31-28 win at Boise State. And in the new era for SMU under first-year head coach Rhett Lashley, the Mustangs went 7-5 overall. 3 of those 5 losses were all by just 1 score, including the battle for the Iron Skillet to CFP contender number 3 TCU. The Mustangs used a 3-game win streak with victories over Tulsa, Houston, and South Florida to lock up a bowl bid. And expect a whole lot of fireworks with some high-powered offenses between these two teams, both finishing with a 7-5 record. SMU averaging 38 points a game, 479 yards of total offense, but both these teams give up a lot of defense, so it should be a whole lot of fun to watch this one. But for SMU, it's going to be a completely different look. They're going to be without the nation's #1 leading receiver, Rini. How different is it going to look without Rashee Rice here in the lineup for SMU?
Yeah, and I had SMU a couple times this year, so I saw Rashee Rice in person, interviewed him, talked to him. He's a bona fide NFL player. He's going to make all kinds of plays on Sundays next year. So it hurts not having him, but you got to move forward, right? Players got to step up. There's still a lot of talent there. Tanner Mordecai is so experienced. He knows how to read defenses, spread the ball around. So he'll get it to some other weapons, but it does hurt not having Rashee there.
Yeah, I think it's critical that he's not there, but I agree with Rini. They played better in the back half of the season, and moving past those 1-score losses, you showed a second ago how many of those games. You think back to Maryland, who they outplayed in non-conference, TCU, who they battled back and just lost by 1 score, who now look up and they're in the Final Four. It's an SMU team that learned how to win as the season went along, and that's a team thing. That goes beyond one player, so more than capable of winning this game against BYU.
And I think Rhett Lashley, and he would tell you this as well, he grew up too during the year.
Absolutely.
First-year head coach, although he's been a coordinator, came up under Gus Malzahn all those years, he learned a lot about his program and himself. There's no doubt about it. But no doubt they want to win this game, get that momentum going into next year. And, a bowl win's a big deal, and 8 wins, as Taylor said.
Coach Lashley, it was impressive to see him be able to retain some of these guys, including Tanner Mordecai, when we see so many guys enter the transfer portal. But Taylor, with Tanner Mordecai here this season, how, with the coaching change, did Coach Lashley continue to maximize his strengths?
Well, I thought Tanner Mordecai got better even as a senior as the year went along, and I think that's the MO really for this entire team. Tanner Mordecai did such a good job within the framework of their offense, finding the open guy. Never focused too much on Rashee Rice, because Rashee Rice got a lot of attention, bracketed and double-teamed a good portion of the season. He did a really nice job within this offense, using his mobility. He's a good athlete, doesn't run around a ton, but finding the open guy and being on time and accurate. And if you can do those 2 things, you can play the quarterback position for a long time, even at the next level. And again, just to reiterate, as this season went along, he got better and the team got better.
When we look at what Rhett Lashley did here in year 1, if you had to give him a grade, Rini, what would you put on it?
B+, A-. I think he did a nice job. I think next year, I think there's going to be a little more of a emphasis on running the ball better to help out his new quarterback, which will most likely be Preston Stone. Very highly recruited player that I think the fans in Dallas have been waiting for him, but rightfully so, waiting for him, learning a lot, sitting behind Tanner Mordecai. But I think if they can win the line of scrimmage a little better, get that running game going, be a little more balanced, I think that's going to pay benefits for them.
You can't have an A with 5 losses, right? So B plus,
Okay.
But first-year head coach, right? I think there were a lot of things that you could be proud of for this SMU team, and you hit on something that I think is really critical for SMU fans. Preston Stone. We saw him briefly, had their game against Tulsa earlier in the year. He's special, and got hurt, broke his collarbone, but just in that one half that SMU fans got to see, I think there's a lot to look forward to with SMU in the future, even after Tanner Mordecai moves on.
So B plus. I bump him to an A minus if they get 8 wins and get the bowl win.
There you go.
I've given him an A minus as well. Yeah, I mean, I think, with Preston Stone, he actually recruited him. Stone, a guy from here in the Dallas Metroplex, went to Parish Episcopal, a state title, winner. He has that winning ability. What is it, Taylor? You had that game with SMU in Tulsa. What did you see that gives you confidence that here in year 1, when he takes the reins, he's ready?
He's special. Look, Preston Stone, it came down to SMU in Texas. And there's some family ties. You talk about being close to home. This is a quarterback that, frankly, if the family ties aren't there, SMU doesn't get this guy most of the time. And he's already made it clear that he's committed to SMU. And all the things that's going on around the program with the new upgrades to the facilities, the new head coach that they have all the faith in the world in, I think that speaks to the direction this program's headed in. And that also gives confidence in this quarterback to stay put. But it's just a special player.
And it tells me a lot about Preston Stone up here. The fact that the world we live in, which is basically like free agency frenzy with the transfer portal, with NIL, that he has committed and is staying with Rhett Lashley. I'm excited next year to see Preston Stone take over the reins and what SMU can do.
It's also really interesting to think that he played behind Tanner Mordecai, a guy who transferred in from Oklahoma, had to play behind Spencer Rattler when he was there, but immediately voted as a team captain right when he got to campus. So leadership ability, he's going to have learned certainly a lot from Mordecai as well.
There's no doubt about it. And Tanner Mordecai throws the ball so well vertically and can read defense. And so Preston Stone sitting back with his talent, now sucking that all in mentally, right? Getting those mental reps and watching it, it paid huge dividends, will pay huge dividends for him. There's no doubt about it. I don't want to get ahead of ourselves. We'll talk about it in the media days next year, but look for a breakout year next year for Preston Stone. But first, SMU wants to get that 8th win for Rhett Lashley and get a bowl victory here and bring it back to Dallas.
So taking us back here, Rini, back to the focus of what we're talking about with BYU. What is it? What does this game come down to? What's the key?
The interesting thing with BYU is they're similar to SMU. They, we talked about those losses they had. They're moving on to the Big 12. They want some momentum. Kalani Sitake wants a win, wants them to get in the right frame going into next year. But they've had some defensive issues that we alluded to. He's made some changes on his staff, so there's a little some things going on there. But with that said, I think the fact that Tanner Mordecai is playing in this game and that SMU can score so many points, I think it is a shootout, and I think SMU wins this game.
Well, and Jaron Hall, quarterback for BYU, banged up in the last game of the season against Stanford. Right now, not sure if he's going to play, but you read between the lines and see some of the stuff on Twitter. Feels like he's not going to play. If he doesn't, this is a totally different BYU team. Certainly advantage SMU between these two quarterbacks, even if they were to both play, but especially if we're talking about BYU with their backup in versus Tanner Mordecai, I think that certainly benefits SMU.
All right, but time for the pick'em. You mentioned SMU, the advantage for the quarterback. But overall, who wins this game, Taylor?
I think SMU wins this game. I think we've said it several times now already, but they got better as the season went along. I thought the win over Houston, 77 points in a game, I thought that was a huge launch pad forward for them. And they learned some things about themselves after they got blown out at UCF. That felt like it was a turning page in their season. They've gotten better as the season goes along. We've talked about how important this bowl game is to them. I think they beat BYU.
Rini, who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think they learned a lot. I think that the key for me to this game, though, is finish. They need to finish plays. They need to finish quarters, finish half, and then finish the game. Be consistent throughout, and I think they can win this game. Yeah, I like SMU.
The last 2 years, SMU hasn't been able to play in a bowl because of the COVID cancellation. So a lot of these Mustangs, they haven't played in a bowl game. Tanner Mordecai hasn't played in significant bowl minutes. I also have the Mustangs winning this one, American team on top. And the New Mexico Bowl between SMU and BYU, that one on Saturday, December 17th, prime time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern